$5. What is it worth to you? Is it a cup of coffee? A snack? A meal? A mysterious bag of white powder from that guy you keep seeing in the back alleyway? Okay, well, maybe not that last one, but could you think of a pair of earphones that are buyable with $5? And would you dare to think that it was any good? I'd reckon that most of you would say no. But hey, with the miracle of chi-fi, and I guess at this price you could call it cheap-fi or even trash-fi, TRN is here to hopefully convince you to answer those questions with a yes. So alright, no more dilly-dallying, let's check out the TRN CS3, a $5 micro driver from TRN. The box for the TRN CS3 is super rudimentary and utilitarian. It's just a thin cardboard assembly with the TRN CS3 rendered in front. The black sides with some basic specifications on the back. Flip out the bottom flap, open it up, and you will have the TRN CS3 in a Ziploc type bag. This is actually a pretty smart move on TRN. Instead of putting the CS3 into just a bag like an adhesive strip, they chose this Ziploc type bag, making it able to double as sort of an impromptu carrying pouch. You know, it cuts down on costs for a pouch, but also giving the consumer at least some form of storage, even at $5. But yeah, we'll get to this later. Next up, you basically have the bag of ear tips. These are just generic black silicone ear tips. They come in small, medium, and large sizes, and they work decently fine with the TRN CS3. It's not that nice or noteworthy, but it'll do. Finally, there's the warranty card and the quality control badge, I guess. Of course, the instruction manual is here as well. It's printed in both Chinese and English. Why I say English? Well, it has such gems as, let me see. TRN with the latest simple way to burn. Complete burn process can be. Oh, they want to set fire to something. TRN is a bunch of arsonists, I guess. And, of course, how could we forget the 5 stages of burn-in? That being Shujin, Meridians, Martial Arts, Beat, and Debut. Of course, you have to do your burn-in in this order. Mess it up and your experience will be completely ruined. So just make sure to do that. And here are the TRN CS3s. A very standard, bullet-shaped design, but classy nonetheless. It's got this matte black shell with red and blue stems, as well as word indicators, if you can see them below the barrel of the earphone, for left and right indicators. The nozzle here is slightly slanted, but since it's kind of stubby, it still gives me a bit of a hard time putting on and taking off ear tips. If you're wondering about the venting, well, there are 3 vents in the back, which do a good job of avoiding driver flex and that dreaded pressure buildup effect in your ears. And man, this is one petite IEM. It's even smaller and shorter than the Moondrop Quarks, the final E3000, and the FAAEAL Poppy. Oh yeah, it lives up to its name as being a micro driver, alright. The cable used here is it's pretty basic. It's got a matte feel, a little stiff, but it doesn't tangle too much. The wires are thin, but they feel decently solid, and you're getting, pretty much a basic Y splitter as well as jack design. The bad part of this cable is that it's very microphonic. Like, just the slightest rubbing of the wires and all that microphonic sound is piped into your ears. Overall, the cable is pretty bad, but it's $5, so I can't help but cut it just a little bit of slack. Oh, and here's an extra mention. The TRN CS3 comes with one of these, which I can't say in fear that I will be demonetized. It's a nice addition, and I hope it becomes a standard for every other brand if even a $5 product can throw in one of these.
So, welcome to my bed, where we will assess the sleepability of the TRN CS3s. So, as you can see, it's a very low profile, hence it barely juts out of my ears at all. That means that even if I lie to the side, it doesn't feel like the IEM is sort of shoving itself up into my ears. So sleeping on the side with these is pretty much not a problem. However, the microphonic cable means that if it rubs against your clothing and your body, there's a lot of distracting microphonic noise that's piped into the ears, so that's not as great. However, it is a really nice sleeping pair of earphones with one of the smallest sizes I have seen, even for a microdriver, so it does pass the sleepability test, and I'm definitely going to be using these as my sleeping earphones.
The TRN CS3 comes with a one-button mic clump. It's just a standard plastic tube thingy, and here's the microphone sample.
The microphone of the TRN CS3 is oddly impressive for something that's $5. It's got decent clarity, and my voice, although a bit smaller in volume and maybe a bit muffled, it's mostly clean. This will do just fine for a quick phone call or even Zoom meetings.
In terms of source matching, with the CS3 you're getting a very thick sound, hence why the LG V50 with its brighter tonality is the pairing, to give it just a bit more life on the top end. And pairings with warmer sources can make the CS3 sound downright dark and muffled, so bottom line is get a brighter source for this one. As for ear tips, note that the changes in ear tip size and ear tip nozzle diameter can make a difference in how much bass you perceive with the CS3. The tips I've chosen here are these generic white wide-bore ear tips. They reduce the bass quantity a bit just to calm it down. If you want the full bass amount though, then the stock tips that came with the CS3s are fine too. So alright, with all that out of the way, let's get to the sound of this TRN CS3. The sound of the TRN CS3 is thick and warm. Very warm, quite dark, with just a bit of treble on top to balance it out. It sounds kinda tilted when I describe it like that, but when you actually listen to it, you end up getting a very sweet, smooth, and easygoing tuning that works well with most music, even if it's not the most balanced presentation. So starting with the bass, I think Chi-Fi manufacturers have mostly figured out the microdriver problem, as the bass of the CS3 can hang with the best of them, with quantity to spare. The small driver in here is able to dole out a powerful amount of bass, perhaps a bit too much even. I'm hearing mid bass over sub bass here, even if the supply graph would say otherwise. Is it a clean boost? No, it's a pretty dirty boost and can sometimes sound muddy. But when it works, you're getting a meaty bass that has a lot of slam when called for, and a really enveloping presentation, as well as a satisfyingly extended decay that you wouldn't often expect from a microdriver. The technical weakness is apparent though. Bass detail here is rudimentary, and as I said before, this boost is perhaps a bit too much, coloring the lower mids and definitely eating up space for the upper mid-range and treble. Make no mistake though, this is probably the most impressive bass I've heard quantity-wise out of a microdriver, and the CS3 can satisfy bass heads looking for a cheap hit of bass impact, that's for sure. The mid-range of the CS3 is very colored and warm sounding, but in a pleasing manner. Its lower mids are definitely thickened by the aggressive bass curve, making it quite warm with a skewed off timbre. Fortunately, this goes well with a decent chunk of music I listen to, with special preference for R&B and soul music. This warmth is a double-edged knife though, as some tracks can have a bloated feeling to them, though thankfully rare. The upper mids here are more unrefined, slightly grainy and somewhat recessed. Thinner sounding vocals are also given a generous dose of warmth, at times to their detriment. This is evident in the song Summertime, where the warmth just makes it a lot more bloated. It's not a deal breaker, but it could be better. The detail retrieval here is also decent for a product of its price. Just don't expect this thing to perform miracles with its tuning masking the amount of low separation quite well. The treble of the CS3 is probably where it needs the most refinement. When you look at the supply graph of the CS3, you might just think, oh no, that boost is gonna kill your ears. Well, not really. Since the bass and lower mids are so prevalent, that said boost is basically what stops the CS3 from becoming absolutely muffled. The treble of the CS3 is about enough to give some of the zest in the music when it's needed, and gives it the needed presence, with some amount of sibilance present here. But yeah, stick to songs that can leverage the lows and mids, as these highs have little in the way of detail, and lighter songs on the CS3 can be quite raspy. The soundstage on the CS3 is notably narrow, but it's not too compressed and falls closer to the intimate side of things. Soundstage height though is almost non-existent, to be expected. Technicalities on the CS3 is impressive on some fronts and average to below average in others. It sure can pump a decent amount of volume, and its bass is plentiful, being mostly free of the clipping and distortion of typical microdrivers. Its detail and resolution is no slouch too, for a $5 product that is. Macro details are decently portrayed with a hint of micro detail, but it is mostly hidden. And its imaging is pretty bad, with most instruments blurring into each other and barely a sense of space being portrayed. The CS3 is definitely leaning on the warm tuning to hide some of these technical shortcomings for sure, but it luckily does quite a good job at it. Between the TRN CS3 and the Moondrop Quarks, for the build, I think the Quarks edges out a bit. Its cable doesn't feel as nice as the CS3's cable, but it's a lot less microphonic. The housings are a bit of a tie. It's up to you whether you like the more engineering sample and DIY feeling transparent housing of the Quarks, or the more standard looking matte black of the CS3. In terms of the sound, the CS3 is significantly warmer than the Quarks, with much more bass as well. The upper mids on the Quarks are more refined, with pretty much no graininess to speak of, whilst the CS3s are a bit pulled back, with some artifacting heard. The highs of both these IEMs are not their strengths, but I prefer the Quarks' less inconsistent presentation. The technical rates on these two are quite close though, with similar detail retrieval, although the Quarks doesn't mask as much detail as the CS3 thanks to its comparatively more neutral tuning. If you told me to pick a winner, I don't think I can. It's more like two divergent flavors of microdrivers. The Quarks geared toward being somewhat warm, but with adherence to neutrality for the audiophile on a budget, whilst the CS3 goes all in with a thick and warm, even slightly dark signature that plays to a different audience which prefers a more colored sound. In a comparison between the TRN CS3 and the FAAEAL Poppy, for the build, the win has to go to the Poppy, with its metal base housing giving a more solid feeling and a similar cable to the Quarks. For double the price of the CS3, the Poppy throws in a super nice hard case, 2 types of ear tips, and other knickknacks, making it still the best unboxing experience in a $10 IEM I've ever seen. So I think it takes a convincing win over the CS3's more bare bones packaging. On the sound front, both the TRN CS3 and the Poppy, they go for a warm tuning, but I think the CS3 pulled it off a bit better. It's got a more prevalent bass, even if sloppier. The lower mids are mostly similar, and the Poppy's upper mids are a bit compressed, exhibiting ringing compared to the CS3's slightly grainy and recessed counterpart. Technicalities on both of these are similar, but well, the CS3 is $5 cheaper. So if you value the unboxing experience and the accessories given, the Poppy is still a very competitive set with a warm sound. If you just want to maximize savings, then the CS3 is the better executed unit sound-wise, even if the build and the extras are less cared for. So going back to the question at the start, do you think there's any IEMs that are any good for $5? Because for me, that answer is now a yes. The TRN CS3 successfully delivers an easy to listen to sound at a very budget-friendly price with one of the smallest sizes I have ever seen, which is why I titled it a sleeper hit. Both in how this thing is really nice for use in sleeping due to its small profile, and how most haven't known about this yet. Heck, I didn't know of it either, and it coming from TRN, the brand that also shotguns their releases as much as KZ, is definitely a surprise, but ultimately a pleasant one. If you are really super tight on budget, or just wanting a disposable spare set with a knack for sleep usage, for the price of a cup of joe or two, you can grab a pair of TRN CS3s and I think you'd be pretty satisfied. Okay, we've reached the end of yet another review. Of course, I'll put the links to the music I use in the description, as well as links to my website and my Patreon, where you can donate to me so that I may have the budget to actually bring more stuff in for review. Shoutouts to 78 Dragon, my tier 2 patron. Of course, tier 2 patrons get access to my script, and the lower tiers also get access to extras, bloopers, some extra footage, and some photography of the products as well, if available. Otherwise, like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more of these reviews, as well as my gaming content. Hit the bell button to make sure the videos actually enter your feed. And of course, if you have any suggestions, any requests, any insights, then please, by all means, participate in the comment section. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. This is Lumerion, signing off.